I was listening to the story about, it was a story of a family in Washington, and the little boy called the Bigfoot the Cowboy Man. And he had, apparently it had made an effort to steal this kid. And it hit me. My children were in that playpen behind me with nothing but a mosquito net over them. It could have crept up behind me and taken both of my children, and I wouldn't have known.
Father just got like a Mustang or something from Wyoming, okay? He had it out in the corral because he couldn't put it in the barn in the stalls with the other horses because it would kick and made all the other horses nervous. Had a Seminole Indian working the horse trying to break it every day. So they had it out in the corral. This skunk ape snuck up behind this horse and grabbed it on its hind quarters. This particular horse kicks out, jumps over the corral, runs into the pasture, to get away. At this point, the rancher's out there just blasted away with the dirty. Skunk ape runs into the swamp.
I went up there one day after that, or 2 days after that. I went up there and sat in the silence up there, and I'm telling you, man, it was free. It was crazy. There was a crazy vibe up there still. I did what I could to kind of get things under control, but I told her, I said, you need to get off this property. I feel like no matter how strong you are, it's almost like standing in the ocean. You can't stand still without moving your feet. You're going to get knocked over eventually, no matter how strong, whatever. You can't withstand a barrage of weird spiritual energy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Paranormal Odyssey Live. I am your host, Wayne, joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Miss Tiffany. What's up, ma'am? How's it going?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing fabulous. Just freaking fantastic. Couldn't be any better at all.
Are you sure?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know what you said. And liars go to hell.
I don't remember saying that.
I bet not.
All right, what's going on in Virginia?
Not too much. It was chilly. I wore my sweater and my boots today. I went and had a checkup, and she told me she really didn't care that I'd gained weight, so that's always good. More power to me.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's good.
Finer than frog's hair.
Finer than frog's hair. Now, when you say chilly, what are we talking in the morning when you wake up in Virginia? What is it?
It is 55 in the mornings.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
That's chilly.
That's perfect camping weather, football weather, just perfect.
To each his own, buddy. To each his own.
All right, let's get all this out of the way. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Those of you that will catch it live, those of you that will catch it later, we appreciate it. But those of you that are here, please hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already. We certainly would appreciate it. Adding new subs every single day, but still got a ways to go before we get to where we want to be. So please share the show, tell your friends, your family, and help us grow. We would appreciate it.
And if you've had an encounter that you would like to share with Wayne and I, you can contact him, Wayne at paranormalworldproductions.com, or me, Tiffany at paranormalworldproductions.com. And we want it all. Cryptid, UFO, paranormal investigators, you name it. We would love to hear from all of you.
Every damn bit of it.
All the whole damn bag.
Y'all check out our website, paranormalworldproductions.com, please. When you get a chance, check out all of the shows that the studio has to offer. This one, obviously, Paranormal World Production, or Paranormal Odyssey, Sasquatch Odyssey, Basement Hangout, Kentucky X-Files, and Brian and my brand new show, That Bigfoot Podcast, coming soon, October 13th. Be looking for those brand new episodes. But yeah, guys, head over to the website, pick you up some merch, and show some support. We would appreciate it.
And do ask questions. I love it when you guys ask questions and engage and interact with us. It makes it so fun. Just put them in all capital letters, please, so we can snatch them up and answer them.
I want to ask everybody, head over to Manimal Research on Facebook and become a member if you have not done so already. Manimal is my Bigfoot organization that I founded back in 2019. And yeah, we got the Facebook group over there dedicated to the work that we do. So ask to everybody, if you haven't done so, head over there and become a member.
And again, go to reaperapparelco.com. And I know the pictures on the clothing are not everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. But we need to share their message. And their message is, you are never promised another day. So you need to live the life that you have and enjoy it. And while you're over there supporting them and their story and getting the word out about them, you can save 10% by using the promo code Paranormal Odyssey. So it's a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Tiffany. I was going to touch on it a little bit myself, and I will just a little bit. We had a message come through. A lady said that she just doesn't think that she could wear something with the Grim Reaper on it, and I definitely understand that. I really do, but sometimes you got to look past that and go to the message that's behind it. The man Dan that started the company, he's a huge Christian, and he's always talking about God and living for God. And I've actually talked to Dan, and we're in works getting him scheduled to come on for a live interview. So hope that we can get that done. But we understand, like Tiffany said, we understand that not everybody's going to like that aspect of it, but the message is really good. So that's that you give those guys a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. All of that out of the way. Who we got in here? Dr. John Baranchuk. What's up, buddy? Always.
Miss Crystal Blevins has come down.
Miss Crystal Blevins is backstage. Are you froze? Am I froze? I don't know. I'm going to assume that it's Tiffany that is froze and not me because I see our guest moving. Can you hear me, Tiffany?
I can hear you now. You were just a spinning dot. I didn't know if you could hear me or not.
Oh, one of us was frozen. I could see our guest moving backstage, but I couldn't see you moving. Anyway, Craig, Joe Pat, Carson, Miss Sandra Piper, thanks guys for coming and hanging out. You want to talk a little bit about the membership before we get our guest out here?
Yes. Okay, so we have a membership. It's $1.99 for extra perks. Our show will always be free. You do not have to get the membership to come in here and talk and listen to us be absolute goofballs and learn about cool things from our guests. But to get the extra perks, and it's really cool stuff, it's just $1.99 a month. That's less than a gallon of gas or a cup of coffee, and it really goes a long way. And we'd really appreciate it. And also, on what I've noticed earlier is when you go to one of these videos, you can leave a comment, but it also has a thanks button. You can click on the thanks button and it allows you to make a small donation there as well. So that would help. And we appreciate it because y'all are the best community.
Yes, we would. We sure would appreciate it. Anyway, even if you don't, thank you. We appreciate everything that you guys do.
Yeah, just coming in here and listening to us jabber.
That's right. That's right. We're going to go ahead and get to our guest unless you have anything else, Tiffany.
No, let's get her. Bring her out.
All right. Tonight we're going to be joined by Miss Crystal Blevins. Crystal is a fellow Tennessean from right here in the volunteer state. She does paranormal investigations, and we got a chance to talk to her for a few minutes before coming on and learn some pretty cool stuff about her. She's going to come on and share, and we're excited to have her. We had her scheduled once before, but she had something come up and had to reschedule, but we stuck with it. We finally got her here, so let's welcome her in. Crystal, how you doing, ma'am?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing very, very good. Thank you for taking the time to come and hang out. I'm glad we finally got together.
You are welcome.
We appreciate it.
All right, Crystal, fellow Tennessean, fellow volunteer. You are up close to Kentucky, right?
I am.
Okay.
I'm
How long have you been?
about 30 minutes from Kentucky.
Okay. Are you familiar with the LBL at all, Land Between the Lakes?
No, I mean I've heard of it, but I've never been there.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask. I'm a Bigfoot guy, and there's some activity out there, so I always like to ask. Yeah, tell us about how you got your start in this. Like, what piqued your interest? How long have you been doing it, and just all that good stuff.
Oh gosh, that goes way back to childhood, actually. I, I first recall seeing, I'm just going to call them ghost spirits, whatever you like to refer them as, when I was roughly 5 years old. Um, I could see them, I could interact with them. I was told I had invisible friends. I was just seeing things because I was born and raised on the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. You don't talk about ghosts, you don't talk about spirits. That's not real. It's just angels and Satan and God. That's it. That's all we have here. So when I would bring it up, of course, having a Southern Baptist father, he would just tell me I was lonely and I was making up things. Not the case. I mean, I was so adamant of one particular little girl. I knew her name. I made my mother set a place for her at the table, and we lived in a very old house, very old house. So I started seeing things on a regular basis, but I kind of pushed them aside, like thinking, they're right. I'm probably just crazy, or I'm just lonely because I was an only child, but not the case. And actually, the interesting thing is when I was born, I was actually deceased for 7 minutes. Um, I was declared deceased, and it was 7 full minutes. They actually walked away from me, and I started crying.
Oh,
So
wow.
my papa always told me that I was special and that I probably crossed over, probably had a connection with the other side. And I fully believe that he was right on all those levels. I've lost my sight. I see certain things, but I always hear. I can hear, I can feel, I can tell you where the spirits are. Um, I wouldn't call myself a medium, but I'm right there. I just have to work on it, hone it in a little bit, and I probably could really do some wonderful communication. But I've kind of blocked it just because of the way I was raised. I've just kind of had it on lockdown for so many years, thinking that I was going to hell if I didn't stop. Then I just stopped, and now I've the last 4 years I've really got back into it and just wanted to be myself and wanted to investigate and learn stories and history and try to help the other side as much as I can.
Now, would you having those abilities as a youngster? Would you call yourself a medium at all?
I Some people I investigate with, they call me a medium, or they act as though I am. I wouldn't go that far. I don't feel like I have really mastered it on that level yet. I feel like you really have to be grounded and really in tune with yourself, which, let's face it, I'm a single mom. I don't have time sometimes to really be in tune with anything except for my children. So um, I it gets kind of scary at times, but at the same time, it's not so bad. I mean, I'm also an empath, so I have that going on for me too. But
Okay.
I'm still working on it. Maybe I'll get there. Maybe I won't. But
Yeah.
I think just having it on lockdown for so many years, convinced that I was in the wrong, has probably not helped it.
Yeah, I get it. Being from Tennessee myself, I was raised Southern Baptist, and anything that pulls you away from God is supposed to be like demonic and bad and all of that stuff. So I get where you're coming from, and a lot of people that grew up here have family like that. So people with abilities like you say you had, it gets suppressed,
Oh
like
yeah,
because their family pushes them away from it. So I understand that completely. But I've interviewed so many psychics, talked to so many mediums. Every one of them agree that we are all born with an ability, like the kind that you talk about. But as you said, as you get older, it gets suppressed. I
it
talked to
does.
one gentleman that said it's kind of like life throws bleach on it, and I like that. I like to think of it that way. But yeah. Also, we were talking before you came on. You just found out you are a descendant of a pretty famous Tennessee resident. Who is that?
That is Kate Batts, aka the Bell Witch. I had heard it throughout my family for years, and I thought, y'all are crazy. I'm not related to Bell Witch. And then I started really digging into the history, and there's so many stories on her. There's so many stories. So I actually just took the plunge, and I did a 23andMe DNA, which actually, put your DNA against relatives of people, and it came back. It was confirmed. So
Wow. That's awesome. That's very, very cool. Very cool. Now we were also talking about another place that's close to you before we went live, and that's Brushy Mountain. I've never been to Brushy. I want to, but you go pretty regular, and you were telling us that you probably had more activity there than anyone else. Can you talk a little bit about what you've experienced there?
absolutely. So Brushy did not open up for tours for just a few years back. Actually, it opened up for tours, but I used to be a paralegal, so I actually had to visit Brushy when it was an operating prison as a paralegal to speak with. We had two inmates we had to go visit. So I was there when it was actually an operating prison, walking through with guards all around me, cat calls going on. I mean, it was a scary place, but also a very emotional place. So when it opened up for tours, I was all on board. I was all for it. But I wanted to do it big. I'm go big or go home. So I decided to go overnight for my very first visit to Brushy Mountain. never been during the day other than when it was an operating prison. I don't know. That's how I am. So I took my oldest son. At the time, he was 16, 15, 16. He was old enough to go. And we were just doing an overnight tour. It actually ended at 2 a.m. But we're walking around, and keep in mind, I really hadn't got into investigating at this point in my life. I had flirted with the idea, but I just hadn't done it yet. So we go into a certain area of the prison they call the auditorium. They only open that up for investigators or for nighttime tours, as long as someone that works there can be with you, because it is supposed to be that bad. So we walk in, I'm in a group, of course, and I thought I smelled gas, like natural, just gas. So I just said, "Hey, you have a gas leak, or what's going on up here?" She said, "Honey, we don't have gas. We don't even have electricity up here, so we don't have gas." And so she looked at the other lady with her, and she's like, "We got to get her out of here. We got to get them all out of here, but we got to get her out of here." Well, my son smelled it too, and we were the only two that could smell it. But they made us go wait in the hospital area that was adjacent to the auditorium. Wouldn't even let us stay in there. So when we got out of that area, I asked them, what's the deal? Why? And she says, well, there's a creeper who comes into the auditorium quite frequently, and he slithers on the ground, and he's pure demonic is what they were saying. And the auditorium actually had more murders than any location in the prison. That's where, people would be watching movies, and they just come behind them and slit their throat, whatever they wanted to do, because they're in the dark and they're not paying attention. So it's the most active spot of the prison, is the legend. So we go on out of there. We go into a D block, which is a whole separate building. And then D block is where they kept the worst of the worst. That's where you had your people on death row. They were all in one separate building, which was the D block. So we're walking through there. They're talking, there's sales. And I'm back, and I heard a clang, just something clanging. And I turned around and I shined my flashlight, and this dark, foggy, I don't know what it was. I don't even know how to explain it, but this dark fog came from underneath the cell and fully formed all the way to the ceiling. And I shined my light, and it went right through it. And no more did I turn to get out of there really fast, because I'm not real sure what I'm witnessing here. It actually went the opposite direction really fast too. So I've always felt like whatever was in there was following us that night, more than likely. But at the same time, I've always had something happen to me in D block. It never fails. So I was actually there for an overnight a few months ago, and I was sitting in front of the cell. I had two other investigators with me, and we had some equipment set up, and we were just asking questions and talking, doing our normal thing. And I felt something pull my hair, and I was leaned against the cell, and I felt it. I mentioned it. We asked, was something messing with Crystal's hair? All the equipment starts going crazy, every direction. We heard shuffling, like something was running toward us. I mean, definitely something in D block, which I recently filmed with Haunted Discoveries, and that's where they put me, was D block. I was like, thanks guys. Let's just recreate all this. But yeah, it's a great place. I go on the regular, even if it's just to eat. I go, I love it. There's something about it that is as sad as it is, it's almost peaceful, if that makes sense. I mean, yes, there was a lot of bad things happen there. That the prison has terrible history. People are buried everywhere on the grounds, but it's just, there's just something about it.
They actually buried some of the prisoners there?
They had to, because Brushy Mountain was operating. It was using the prisoners to work in the mines from the mountains, and it's located in a mountain. There's one way in and one way out, and it's just surrounded by mountains. So they actually use prisoners to work the mines. If they fell over, they just dug a hole. They threw them in it. They didn't care. They're prisoners. So very inhumane. They were picking up people. I recently found this out because I do history on all my locations. And that's the best way to get to know spirits. You know them by name, you know their story a little bit, and you can recreate it and talk to them, and you'll get a lot more if you're talking to them like we're talking than you will if you're just asking, what's your name? What happened to you? They get tired of that, I'm sure. I would. But they would actually pick up people for minor misdemeanors and stick them in Brushy Mountain just so they could use them to work in the mines. I mean, they had children in there, young teenage boys that they was just to have working in the mines. They beat them on a regular basis. Everything you could possibly think of, they were doing to these inmates. Yes, they had terrible inmates. They had murderers, they had rapists, they had pedophiles, but they also had people's sons in there that were just, buying beer underage or anything like that. And they were killing them. So the whole place is just, it's heavy and it's sad, but there are locations that are peaceful, as weird as that sounds. Because I feel like sometimes they just want you to talk. They just want someone to talk.
Yeah. I don't expect you to know like the exact dates or anything, but I'm curious, do you have any idea like when it was operational, like from when till when? When did it close down?
I did know that. I'm sorry.
Tiffany, can you look it up, Tiffany? Okay.
But yeah, it was I mean, I know, like I said, when it was operational, I was a paralegal, but it shut down not long after that.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. That's what surprised me, because when you talked about you actually going there in your lifetime, you're not that old, and I was thinking it had been closed for a long time.
No, it's really not. I mean, they built a new prison on the other side of Morgan County to just replace it, more modern and up to date. But I mean, it was, from what I've heard from guards that used to work there, because they have guards on site. If you go for a tour, they'll have guards there that used to work there, or even inmates that used to be there. They've got, you can talk to them. And they said kind of what it looks like now is kind of how it looked right before it shut down. I mean, it was that bad. And that's, what these people are living in.
Now they have a restaurant and everything?
They do. That's the bottom of the hill. They have a restaurant. They make, they have distillery there. So they make moonshine. Really good moonshine. It's really good.
Get you drunk before they
yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Now you mentioned when your first time there, when you were in the auditorium, you mentioned a creeper. And my mind goes to like a creepy dude. I didn't know what you were talking about when you said creeper, but is that a known thing? I mean, what is a creeper?
People have their own definition of a creeper. Everywhere I go that talk about a creeper, they describe it almost the same, but basically it's something dark that kind of slithers across the ground, maybe up to the ceiling or up the wall, just something that just kind of creeps in the shadows, but then also slithers. So it's a dark entity, and that's what everyone calls a creeper.
There's not like a shadow person.
No, it's different from a shadow person. As far as I know. I mean, I've seen shadows, and then I've never personally seen what everyone calls a creeper, but I've seen pictures and videos of things slithering up the wall. It's pretty creepy.
I
But
can imagine. I'd never heard of it. It's
yeah.
crazy to ask. Y'all notice we lost Tiffany. She just texted me and said her internet went out, but she'll be right back. She's working to get that fixed. But you also answered what was going to be one of my questions at some point during this interview was, have you ever been touched or like assaulted during an investigation? You said something pulled your hair there, right?
It did. Yeah, I've been touched a lot. A lot. There is a place I go here locally that's Rugby, Tennessee. And I'll go there just on a regular too. It's an old town. But I was in the cemetery there when I leading an investigation of some folks, and it was foggy and it was raining, and I was physically pushed to the ground. So yeah, I've took some blows before, and I imagine that takes a lot of energy for the spirits to do. So they must really want to get their point across if they're doing that.
Now, give me some detail on that being pushed to the ground. Did you actually like? Were you pushed from the back or the front?
From the back. And there was actually another female in the group that was also pushed. She didn't hit the ground, but she was pushed just a few seconds after me. It was like something would come up behind us and was pushing us.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Did you feel like two hands on your back?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I could feel two hands. Of course, that's a very, very active location as well. And it's not all good spirits that are there in the cemetery or even on the grounds. So, and I knew what I was getting myself into. I still go there on a regular basis because I feel like there's an actual person in that cemetery who has a story. And
that's called Rugby, you said?
Rugby, Tennessee.
Okay. And look who decided to join us.
Dang
Did you
internet.
have to use the bathroom, Tiffany? I always tell you to go to the bathroom before the show starts.
This is the second unprofessional show I have done for you, and I'm just over it.
Were you able to look up Brushy Mountain?
Yes, it opened, and it's so funny when you look it up. It says the gates to hell opened in 1896.
Oh shit!
No kidding. So I'm looking now.
1896. That's what you said. 1896.
That's what it says. 1896. The gates of hell were opened.
Damn.
It talks about the coal mining, the Coal Creek War.
Now, when did it close? When did it close, Tiffany?
That's what I'm looking for. I kind of got interrupted.
Sorry.
Well, not by you. By internet.
Okay, well, just let us know when you find it.
Yes, I will.
Okay, so that was a cemetery in Rugby, Tennessee. So Rugby is the town.
It's a little town. Yeah, many years ago they wanted in England. They actually came and wanted to build a utopia, which was a utopia of England, just this perfect little spot that kind of mimicked England. So they sent English colonists here to settle this location, and I personally feel like they just landed smack dab on Indian ground, and it's cursed. I will always feel that way. There was a lot of Indians in that area, and nothing thrives there. I mean, you're talking typhoid fever broke out, all kinds of diseases broke out while they were trying to operate their town. Multiple buildings burned, and I'm not so sure some of the little mountain men didn't have something to do with that because of where it's located. But lots of dark history there as well, but it's still standing. You can still take tours of it. They've actually offering lantern tours now, historical lantern tours. You can investigate it. You can stay in some of the cottages and do investigations. That's relatively new. I've been going there on my own for years, taking people there. Everybody knows about Rugby. Everybody knows about Rugby Cemetery around here, and most people will not go at night. I do.
Naoma Finn here just commented. She told us that the Brush Mountain closed in 2009. So thank
Yeah,
you.
June 11th, and so it was open for 113 years.
Yeah, and Naoma also commented this: Rugby is a cool little town, haunted as hell, but cool. So she knows about it as
Oh, it's
well.
very,
Naoma's
very
from
haunted.
Naoma's from around that area too. She lives up in Tennessee, probably not real far from you. But yeah, that's cool. I've never heard of it. Never heard of it. I want somewhere that I can go and check out because I'm one of these. I've got to experience it. You know, I've got to see it. And one of the reasons I say this every time I interview a ghost hunter, one of the reasons that stopped me from really getting into doing what you do, Crystal, and what so many others do, because I'm fascinated as hell in what you guys do. But what stops me is that fear of something latching on and me bringing something home to my kids or just to me. You know, I don't want to bring anything home with me. Have you experienced that? Do you feel like anything's ever latched onto you and came home?
I have. Before I really learned what I was doing. Now I sage. I have sage spray. I carry different crystals, different protective stones. I do say prayers. I mean, I do all of it now, but in the beginning, no, I did not. I went to Waverly Hills in Louisville, and I spent the night there. I was there till 6 a.m. in the morning, and came home, and I swear it was the worst week that I've of my entire life. I mean, I've had some pretty rough weeks, but everything was terrible in my life. I couldn't get a grip of myself. I couldn't get a grip of my life. I was mad, sad. Everything was going on. I was hearing things. I was feeling things that it wasn't right. So I knew what was going on. I wasn't, I talked to people and I knew what was going on. So I drove all the way back to Louisville, and I told we're told the only thing you really have to do is tell something it's not welcome in your home, and the spirit world will abide. They will do what they're supposed to. I don't know if that's true, but that's what we're told. So I actually told it to get out of my house. I did some little saging, and I said, just get in my car. Just get in my car. I drove all the way back to Louisville to the gates of Waverly Hills and just said, you're home, get out. You're not welcome. And I had no more problems after that.
That was so nice of you to give it a ride home, though.
I mean, I wasn't so sure what I was dealing with because of the way I was feeling. It wasn't good. Luckily my children was on home that week. They were visiting their dad. Luckily, because I really don't, I have very sensitive children. They won't admit that, but I do. So I don't. We have a spirit in our home. We are pretty sure it's a child. Not sure if it was here when we moved here or if I brought it home. We're just not real sure. We used to hear a bicycle bell randomly, like the old timey little bicycle bell. We would hear it just at random times. Well, my little boy was only 4 at the time. And I went to his bedroom one night and he was just talking up a storm. And I was like, who are you talking to? He said, David. So here I'm going down the route my parents went down. Oh, that's cute. You got an invisible friend. Oh, he was adamant. No, David. He blamed everything on David. David did. If there's something was wrong, David did it. So, I thought, okay, he's got an invisible friend. Well, one night I was sitting in my living room and it was raining outside and there was a little condensation on the door. And there was headlights that came by my door and it hit the door just right, and there was this little tiny handprint on my front door that was too small to be my child. Here I go, and it's like, okay, David's real. And at that point I started communicating myself, and I would hear things. I would hear a child at random times. My oldest son would think that his brother was home and he wouldn't be home. So we've all experienced it. but we're not afraid of him. So
What is that saying? There's nothing more beautiful or precious than the laughter of a child, unless it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're home alone.
yeah, it
Yeah.
happens. I mean, I've had people visiting that felt like something was touching them, and I was like, "It's school's just David," and some have not returned. I mean, some have never came back into my home, but we've had lots of experiences here. But I really think it was already here when we moved here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you feel like there's something in your house.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's this child.
So David's still there, you think?
He's still here. I mean, I actually had a visitor a few weeks ago. He was from Haunted Discoveries. We were just hanging out. We went to Brushy, and we were just sitting, watching something of the show on his laptop, and things in the kitchen started moving. And of course, both of us were not scared. We're like, "Oh, okay, cool. Hey, what's up?" But I've had visitors who didn't think it was so cool. But I wish that he could cross over, but I guess he's not ready.
Yeah, I wonder. I was going to ask that if it might just be a case of a spirit not ready to go yet. I
Yeah,
guess there's no way of knowing, is there?
there's not. I mean, we try to communicate the best we can. We use equipment. Some of the equipment you can rely on. Some of it, I mean, maybe not. Um, the best thing you can really have is your intuition. Honestly, there is some equipment that will pick up words. We can, pick up activity, but honestly, it's intuition. You're going on your gut feeling a lot of the time, and then you hope that they present themselves, or they make a sound, or you're not alone.
We've had a lot of paranormal investigators on. Had a couple on not very long ago at all that were real big in doing the Estes method. Is that something you ever use?
Yeah, I'm actually stuck doing that every time I'm on investigation because I can hear things so clear. But we do use the Estes anytime I've done an event, we do an Estes method. I've done it myself on just investigations that I'm leading, and um, it's a hit or miss, which is like any investigation. I mean, you can go into the most haunted location. You could go right now to Brushy Mountain, which is very haunted. You could go to Rugby right now and not hear, not see, not feel anything. And the bad thing is all of these TV shows have made it appear to everyone else that all you really have to do is show up, and you're going to hear something, feel something, see something. Something's going to chase you. You're going to see a demon. You're very, 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 very unlikely to encounter a demon. I mean, there are demons out there, but I don't think they just present themselves every time someone goes into a location.
Well, and that's what she was talking about is everybody's hyped up by the television. And she said, but really, you go there and sometimes it's so boring because
yeah,
nothing happens. And
it's actually a perfect hobby for an introvert, honestly, because you're just sitting, alone for hours. I mean, you might have one person with you. It's better to have at least just no more than two in the room with you. That way you don't get any background noise that on your equipment. But
Yeah, and something else to keep in mind when you watch these shows, Ghost Hunters and all of that, you're watching an hour-long episode and it's jam-packed full of action and stuff that was happening, but they were there for days. Like, how many
yeah,
hours were they there, and they were able to condense it, edit it down to an hour. So it looks like they were busy the whole time, but in reality, it's like you said, they were just sitting there probably bored most of the time. But I do want to get to John's question. Dr. John Baranchuk asks a dumb question. I don't think it's a dumb question. Do child spirits get older over the years or remain the same age?
I think that's a question we have never really had an answer to. I have a cousin, she's also a sensitive, and she swears that a spirit that she encountered that was a child spirit many years ago grew up and actually popped in and checked on her a few years ago. And he was a teenager. She said it was the same spirit. She knew that it was. So her opinion was that they can age. I can't say. I don't. I just know I've
But
encountered several children.
but you hear about like children ghosts like from back in the 60s and 70s. I mean, they're still children today.
Mhm.
So you would think that my thought would be once you pass, that's your age. I mean,
Mhm.
because you weren't here to get any older, so you're just not going to get any older. That's my thought, but I mean, who am I?
I mean, that's
Well,
my
that's
thought too. But did you start throwing in all scientific explanations and possible other dimensions and vortexes, and you dabble into all of that? We don't
yeah,
know. We don't know what happens. Do you go into different dimensions? Do you pop back in? There's so much science that's behind it. So many
yeah,
theories. That's why we investigate. That's why we do everything we do. Is to try to get answers, even if it's just for ourselves.
yeah. You're exactly right. Exactly right. Now, Crystal, let's talk about probably what would you say was the most scared you've ever been on an investigation, and what happened?
Well, the most scared was my incident with Brushy when the figure appeared, because I was very, very new to all of it. And it was nighttime, which also heightens that fear factor a little bit. But I was in Rugby, that investigation that I was pushed to the ground. It was raining and it was foggy, and we were, all soaking wet, but we were still pushing through. And I kept coming back around to the same headstone. I couldn't get away from it. Every time I would circle back around, I thought, this fog is really turning me around. So I'm trying to read the headstone. And as I read the headstone, I basically passed out. I got really sick, thought I was going to vomit. And this was right after being actually pushed. This was after I got pushed. And so it was pretty close to this headstone. And I had to excuse myself, go sit down. I had people worried about me, and I really thought I was going to pass out. But I wanted to know who this person was. So I go back during the day, the next day, and I research. I do a lot of research on my investigations. And there are old records in Rugby that you can research. They're hard to find, and you spend hours doing it, but you can find them. And this particular person, his cause of death was poison. So at that point, I'm really freaked out. I'm like, okay, he died of poisoning. Was it a murder? This or that. But I was freaked out and scared at the same time, because I felt like he was trying to take me over or do something. I don't know for sure what was going on at that point, but I was really sick, really, really sick. So I wouldn't say I was scared, but they really opened my eyes to how vulnerable you are when you go do these things if you're not really careful.
Right. So it was almost like he was making you feel how he felt
Exactly.
before he passed away.
That's
Exactly. And it was awful. I've never been that sick on an investigation. And every time I go there, I feel like this man has a story. He wants someone. I know I'm sounding like Scooby-Doo now, but he wants someone to solve the crime. But
you meddling kid.
I know, but it's just a feeling that I have. But I wouldn't call it scared so much as just aware. I became more aware of what I was doing and how careful I needed to be. But I don't scare, honestly. That's the scary thing, is I don't get scared, and that's also dangerous in ways.
Every time I've asked that question to a paranormal investigator, they've given me that answer right there. I just don't get scared, and that
No,
makes me think maybe I'm maybe I'm not cut out for it, because I do get scared. So
I investigate with people who do get scared and they love it. That's why they do it. It's because they love the adrenaline of the fear.
yeah,
And I did get scared of Brushy that one time, but I've never been scared anymore.
I go out.
I have walked around abandoned, shut down hospitals in the middle of the night, stayed in some sketchy places, caves, out in the middle of the woods. I've done it all, and sleep like a baby or just stay alert and do my investigating.
But Crystal, when you talk about walking around abandoned buildings and stuff like in caves and stuff, what gets my mind going, what I think about is not really being afraid of the spirits, but a live person.
That's what I'm afraid of.
I'm more afraid of an actual crazy person
Yeah.
being in there with me, squatting in the abandoned hospital. And I'll go on Bigfoot investigations. I do them all the time. And I'm out in the woods and I do get creeped out. I get scared. So I do enjoy that adrenaline and everything. But I feel like spirits and ghosts and like when you start talking about demonic stuff, that's just a whole different level to me. I mean, that's a whole different kind of scared.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, especially new people who want to get into it or they want me to take them, you don't need to be afraid of the spirits. I mean, they can scare you and you can hurt yourself trying to get away from them. But unless they're evil, pure evil, and they're not going to be able to touch you or do things that can harm you. They might be able to touch you, but they're not going to be able to kill you. But it's the mouth breathers out there in the world that will get you.
Yeah.
Them dang mouth breathers.
Yeah, those are the ones that'll get you, especially if you're I mean, I'm just going to say it, a female out there. It's a little worse, I feel like, at times.
Well, and I think too, another reason why we have such a fear of this is because we have to assume everything. Because, like, y'all were both Southern Baptist. I was raised Baptist, and it's all suppressed for your whole life. So then you're trudging into the unknown, and that in itself is scary. So, and I think that's what plays a big factor for me, because I'm a chicken, but I love this stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, like you just said, Crystal, I mean, it's such a scary time to be a woman. It really is. Tiffany and I have talked about this a couple of times. I don't know how y'all do it. I mean, having to put napkins over your drinks when you're out, walking to your car. I could not imagine being afraid walking to my car. And that's something y'all deal with daily. And I'm getting off topic here. That this isn't really a paranormal thing, but it just pisses me off because
it's facts. That's why I think I'm so connected to the spirit world, because they can't hurt me. It's the live people that can and have hurt me in the past. I've never been hurt by a spirit.
Yeah.
Scared a little bit maybe, but not hurt. And most people, they hurt themselves just trying to get away from it.
Yeah, we got another question here for you from Carson. It says, Crystal, ever encounter a demonic entity?
The only thing that I would consider demonic was at Brushy, when it was the black figure. I don't know anything else that could be black, and I did smell the gas, sulfuric smell, which is notorious for demonic energy. So, but at my investigation after we left Rugby one night, we did stop at a bridge, and we was kind of hanging out under the bridge, which is known to have satanic rituals that happened under that bridge in the past. And the laws had to run them off and things of that nature. And we were by the river, and we did hear growling, and it was after some pretty freaky stuff had happened. Some thought it was an animal. I was raised in the mountains. I've never heard an animal that sounded like that. So was it demonic? I don't know. Was it some kind of weird crossbred bear? I don't know. But
was it Bigfoot?
It could have been Bigfoot, but I didn't hear any knocking. just a lot of growling, and we all ran that night. So I guess we got scared that night. But again, what was coming to my mind was it was an animal, and that's why I was running. But at the same time, I never really didn't sound like an animal. And that area is known for having dark presences. So I wish I knew, but I know a lot of TV will make people believe that demons are everywhere. And I'm not saying that they're not, but they're not going to present themselves that easy. I think that's their whole facade, is to be hidden. They don't want you to know they're a demon. They're not going to come out and scare you.
From everything I've heard about demons, they're after a certain type anyway. Like if you're strong in your faith and you believe, and they can't do anything to you. It's just certain type of people that they're after anyway.
Yeah, I believe it's the weakened spirit is the actual thought on that, or maybe someone who suffers from mild mental issues already. someone that's just weak minded and weak souled.
Yeah. Have you ever been to South Pittsburgh Hospital?
I have. That's where I actually did my very first investigation. It got me interested. I was there for an event. And when I saw all of the equipment going off, I was just, oh, this is really cool. So then I got into it from there. But I've been there several times. I've spent many hours in that hospital.
That's my neck of the woods. A lot
Yeah.
of my dad's family is from South Pittsburgh, and if I'm ever going to go, it's probably going to be there. So I don't know. So it was, and I've heard a lot of people say, I've known a couple of people that have gone to several places like you that say South Pittsburgh was the haunted place that they've ever been.
I mean, it's haunted. It is definitely haunted, but I mean, it's different. I've been there sometimes, just like any location, and not had a lot, and then I've been
Yeah.
there and had it's been off the charts. So I'm still looking for that most haunted place. I'm still on the look for that.
Do
So
you have
far,
a bucket list place that you would like to visit before you die?
Salem,
Okay.
definitely Salem. And I would love to go to the Queen Mary in California.
Okay. That's a ship.
Yeah, yeah, it's supposed to be extremely haunted, and I just want to see for myself.
Okay. Okay. What about Savannah, Georgia? You ever been to Savannah?
I haven't been to Savannah. I would love to go. I mean, I've been to New Orleans several times. That place is a place of its own. I mean, there's no other place like it.
We were talking about it just Saturday. We had a guy on from New Orleans, and we spent the whole hour and a half talking about down there and how different it is. And that New Orleans is on my bucket list. I want to go. Did you go for the spooky stuff or just
I
for other?
didn't. I was just there with friends. Over the years, we've been several times. I mean, of course, I was fascinated with all the voodoo and things like that because, I have that in my family gene pool too. So I really got into that a little bit. Um, but I mean, I believe if vampires exist in any form, they're probably there if they're anywhere in the United States.
Yeah.
It's a cesspool of freaks is what is in New Orleans. I mean, you name it, it's there.
I bet you it's just lousy with spirits.
Let's see. Carson asks, let me get it pulled up here. Crystal, do you remote view? Do you know
Don't
what remote
understand.
viewing is?
No.
Explain remote viewing, Tiffany.
Now that I'm not muted, remote viewing is pretty much, from what I have seen, you're in an isolated location. You can pretty much see things in your head. So you're making almost like a map of the location of things or where things could be or what is there. Just a little bit that I know about it, it's similar to that.
Like being able to see at a different location, kind of
Mhm.
like.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're just in a completely different area than that
Yeah,
100% news.
I think that's a totally different skill set.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think I can do that. I've
Yeah.
never done anything like that.
Jessica
Dr.
Jones actually is good about that. She was just on Bigfoot Michigan Rob a couple of days ago, I think maybe a week ago, and that's what that whole episode was a remote viewing with her.
Yeah, Dr. John Barenschalk's asking, says, Wayne, what's the name of that brick structure in a nearby mountain where the two guys had parties and orgies and were killed by two town folks? He tried to go there squatching dog hauntings, etc. He's talking about Corpsewood. Have you heard of Corpsewood Manor?
I haven't.
Okay. No, that's local to us. It's in North Georgia. It's a creepy place. A lot of people go there to do paranormal investigating. As the story goes, it was back in the 70s, I think. It was a doctor from Chicago and his lover. They were gay. They moved down here to the North Georgia mountains and bought some acreage and built this real extravagant mansion, like out in the middle of the woods, and it took all of their money to do it. But they would throw these wild sex parties and stuff, and it just rumor got out there was a lot of money in the house, and two townspeople heard about it and went up there and killed them. And they didn't find their bodies for a few days later, and the house has been burnt down since. But a lot of satanic stuff supposedly went on up there, and members of my group, my organization, had been up there and claimed some really creepy stuff has happened. But you might want to look up Corpsewood Manor.
Yeah, I'll
I'll
do
I'll,
that.
I'll text it to you, and it's really really interesting. I don't know if you'd ever want to go down there and try it, because I mean it's nothing. You just walk out in the woods, and it's where our structure used to be. But I've never been, and I'm not crazy about going because people talk about the feeling that you get when you're there. Okay, we got a few minutes left. Crystal, what have you got coming up? You said that you had a couple events you were going to be working, or anything you want to talk about?
I have Octagon Hall in Franklin, Kentucky, this Saturday night. That's scheduled. That's an old Civil War field hospital. I've been there several times. Had a lot of activity there before. Last time I went, didn't really have a lot go on, but that's how it goes. But I've had enough in the past that I want to go back. So I have my good friend, my T Dog. I mean, a lot of people may know T Dog. I'm not sure. He's from Riverbend Paranormal out of Indiana. I investigate with him a lot and his crew. So we're excited for Saturday. And then Halloween Eve up until after midnight, which would actually be Halloween, I have the Bell Witch Farm and Cave going on. So we're really excited about that one as well.
All right, very cool. So I guess if anybody wants to participate in that one, they can just go online and get information on it.
You can, and just go through the Bell Witch Cave website, and they've got a link to purchase tickets for the night. It should be really interesting on Halloween.
Oh, all right, Crystal. I told you this hour would fly by. I can't believe it's already been an hour. This was a really, really fun talk. I appreciate you coming and hanging out with us for an hour. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the invitation.
And you be safe out there in your travels and your spooky stuff.
Always.
All right, we'll see you later. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right, that was good
That was
stuff.
really- Yeah. I am super sorry that my computer has been super stupid.
There's no excuse, Tiffany.
Actually, it's not technically. It's Zach's Mac, so it's his fault.
You always got to blame everything on that poor man. That poor man that does nothing but love you. He works. He supports his family. Gives you a nice Apple computer to do your little podcasting on, and here you are bad mouthing him. I am ashamed.
You know what? Brothers got a band together. Look. Did you see him? Hold on, let me put that up there. He said, "Blame me." I told Carrie because they were laughing at me and the blooper that I had made when I was first trying to record that, and I have caught so much. I was so funny, and I was like, you know what? I am so glad that I can make all y'all's lives so interesting and funny.
Yeah, trying to decide how I'm going to debut that blooper.
Oh my gosh. I was like a deer because I hit the wrong button, so I'm expecting something to pop up and it didn't, and it's still my face, and I'm like just stone cold silent. It's ridiculous.
All right, another good show in the books. Yeah, thank you everybody for hanging out. What is Naomi saying?
She's saying that it is his primary job to accept blame.
We're men. That's what we do.
But he agreed. Look, see, you are so correct. See, we've been married for 24 years this year, and a lot of that happened by him saying, "Yes, dear." I'm kidding. He's not that way.
All right, guys. Before we get out of here, we had a couple of new members sign up, so I want to thank them. Everybody else, guys, if you would, and $1.99 isn't going to kill you. We would appreciate you becoming a member. Get you some of
Yes.
that extra stuff. And Tiffany and I are in the works of putting together a little prize. I know Naoma has offered an autographed copy of one of her books. So that will be included. And there's going to be some merch and maybe some other stuff that will be included that we'll give away to either, we'll draw a name from either our first 25 or 50, I guess, depending on how big the prize is. 25 or 50 members will draw a name. And to be eligible, though, you got to be a member. So you guys, please do that. We would appreciate it.
Yes, we would appreciate it.
All right. You got anything else, Miss Tiffany?
No, but please come back Thursday afternoon at 2:00. We have Casey Miller, and she is from Oregon, and she'll be joining us Thursday afternoon. So definitely share, get the word out. We are really trying to grow that Thursday show because we have some awesome people who are on Thursdays, and we really want to get them the audience that they deserve.
Y'all, if you're planning on being here Thursday for that show and you're into Bigfoot, if you're into woo, buckle up. Because Miss Casey Miller has experienced some stuff and it's crazy. It's crazy. Just, I'm warning you, it's going to be an interesting show Thursday. I cannot wait.
Yes.
All right. Say your goodbyes, Tiffany.
Goodbye. Have a good night.
Guys, thank you so much for hanging out. Y'all take care of yourselves, take care of each other. We will see you next time.